Welcome to the SNP conference. Why are we here today? We're here today because they're taking a very important vote. They're voting on making so-called abortion rights a constitutional right in an independent Scotland. Now you may say that's very hypothetical, but let's just think about what that means. We've warned about this for a year or two. What it would mean is in an independent Scotland, even if the Parliament of the day wanted to vote against abortion in some way, some extra restrictions, if it was a constitutional right, that would mean it's not that simple to stop abortion. In other words, it would make abortion very, very difficult to restrict in the future in a hypothetical independent Scotland. So that's a very important thing. So the reason we're here is to remind the people in the SNP, the people who can vote, to remind them what they're voting for, to show them images of what they're voting for, to make it absolutely clear, and then the responsibility, the moral responsibility is on them. It's been quite interesting seeing the response of the SNP delegates going in, a surprising number, sympathetic to what we're saying, but the majority passed by on the other side, using that phrase deliberately. But a significant number have sort of been angry, but a significant number have been supportive. So I had a chat, for example, one young man, I said, "Have you got a vote this morning?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Are you voting for life or death?" He said, "I won't be able to vote because I'll be at Mass." I said, "What? What? You know, how can you possibly, as a Catholic, as a faithful Catholic, be supporting this party that supports abortion so enthusiastically and is going to take a vote on this motion? How can you support them?" And he said, "But they're the only vehicle for independence." I mean, to me, that just sounds like independence is an idol. Independence is an idol. Everything has to be sacrificed, including the unborn, for the sake of that idol. So we'll see how the vote goes, and I will update you later on. Off we go to the conference hall, and these are speakers in favour of continuing the killing of the unborn indefinitely into the future.
Our Constitution will be more than just a piece of paper. It will be the highest expression of our nation's values and our aspirations, the bedrock upon which our laws and our institutions are built. By placing the right to abortion within our Constitution, we ensure it is a right that cannot easily be stripped away. We protect it from the whims of politicians, from changing tides of public opinion, and from the potential influence of outside forces. It's also about defining who we are and what we stand for as a country. Conference backing this resolution today will send a clear message that our party will always defend and fight for abortion rights. Women forced underground, seeking dangerous and often deadly alternatives.
The SNP will always defend abortion. That's what this motion's about, taking it out of political debate so that even a future SNP would have difficulty changing their mind because it will be fixed in the Constitution. I mean, to talk about deadly alternatives, she doesn't quite catch the irony of that, does she?
I will continue to stand up for women and for what is right and fair. I ask you to support this resolution because whether you know it or not, someone in your life has had an abortion, as is their right. Thank you.
So the argument there seems to be it happens, therefore it must be right. Now you'll notice in this video that the volume of applause from the audience is in inverse proportion to the coherence and logic of the point made. Now we'll go on to the next lady, and what she says here is just a total muddle. It makes no sense whatsoever.
To prevent these bigots in their attempts to impose their values on others. I am all for debate, but you have to respect other people's choices, but don't do that by forcing your choice on somebody else.
I suspect this lady's been hurt in some ways in the past and she's got some issues to deal with, but just listen to this. This is from the stage in the SNP conference.
Because women are in general, quote, a bunch of godless sluts who need a bit of regulation from men in how they conduct themselves. As one of those godless sluts myself.
I mean, this alleged quote of godless sluts, who exactly is supposed to have said that? But again, she's engaging with an imaginary foe rather than what pro-life people actually say. Now, the next bit, I have to say, is I find quite amusing.
But certainly we do not want to be under the regime of people like the Family Party, the Kinderküche kitchen people. Yep.
Now, the phrase she was attempting to articulate there was the German version of children, kitchen, church, which was used by the Nazis. They didn't originate it. It was used in Germany before them. But it was taken to be a sort of embodiment of sort of ideal womanhood. Children, bringing up children, domesticity and involvement in the church. Now, how does that apply to the family party? Well, our policy on what women ought to do is, well, let's just let women do what they want to do, same as with men, same as with anyone, just let people do what they want to do. It so happens for a lot of women, bringing up children and homemaking is what they want to do, and if that's what they want to do, we want to make those choices possible. I mean, looking at the Nazi communist ends of the spectrum, the Nazis wanted women at home bringing up children. The communists wanted women working in the tractor factory, with big muscles. They were the two extremes of the spectrum. Where are we on that spectrum? Well, nowhere. We just want to give choice so that people can do what they want to do.
Even if we wouldn't make the same choice ourselves, there's a golden rule. Mind your own damn business. Conference, support the resolution.
I mean, mind your own business. He says that as though that settles the argument. If mind your own business settles this argument, it actually settles every moral argument, doesn't it? You ought not to do that. Mind your own business. And of course, that's met with rapturous applause. Now, we're now moving on to the one person who opposed the motion, a man. And hearing what he's got to say in opposing this motion is maybe the worst part of the lot. Just listen to this.
Believe me, I'm not coming from a position of imposing anything on anyone. I'm coming from a position, first of all, of believing that there are two lives involved. I accept that some people don't accept that. If one person is deterred from voting for our constitution on the basis of this resolution, that one person could make all the difference.
Now, this is the bit I think is the most revealing. He's saying there are two lives involved in abortion. So he's recognising the value of the human life of the unborn child. And do you think he might care about that? He might base some argument on that sort of point of view, suggesting that these human lives should be protected? No, not in the slightest. This is the SNP conference. So he realises there's only one currency that's accepted in that conference hall, and that is Scottish independence. So his line is basically, who cares about all the human lives sacrificed through abortion? We've got to think about who's going to vote for independence. That's the most important thing. So he launches an impassioned plea about the value of every single person. Not every single person's life. Not interested in that. That's not going to get you anywhere in the SNP conference hall. Every single person who might vote for independence. That's what might actually be important. So the one person voting for independence, please don't do it for the sake of the one vote. He doesn't offer the argument, please don't do this for the sake of the tens of thousands of unborn children that will be killed. And it really says it all about the SNP, doesn't it? Anything that you sacrifice your children to is an idol. So independence with the SNP, within the SNP, is an idol. Now, I could go on and talk about other political ideologies and priorities that might perform a similar function for other people, but that's not my topic in this video. Right, let's now move on to the crunch time. It's time for the vote.
Can I ask conference for those who wish to vote for the resolution to raise your hands now? Thank you very much, conference. That's very clear that the resolution is passed.
Needless to say, it passed extremely comfortably. There's no need for any other process apart from a show of cards. So it must have been pretty overwhelming. So now let's just get this clear. If a person says, or if you say, if you're watching this video, if you say, I support the SNP, you're saying, I support abortion continuing in Scotland basically forever. The best we can do to make sure abortion continues for decades and decades to come. We want to make it as difficult as possible for even any future government to stop it. That's what's implied by saying, I support independence for Scotland through the SNP. That's what it means. Now, of course, supporters of the SNP, representatives of the SNP, they'll try and kid themselves. They'll engage in all sorts of spectacular mental gymnastics to avoid the conclusion that the core values of the party they're supporting are as I have stated them. Now, of course, in days gone by, people might have said, oh, but there's some pro-life people in the SNP. They're very prominent. It's really wonderful that they're there, isn't it? Okay, who might they be? Kate Forbes? Kate Forbes is not a pro-life politician. Not quite sure what she might believe in her heart of hearts. I think she is pro-life actually in her secret thoughts. But she's not a pro-life politician. Kate Forbes is a pro-abortion politician because she wants abortion to continue. She promises that abortion will continue. So this motion to enshrine abortion in the Constitution of Independent Scotland is entirely in line with Kate Forbes' stated position. This is often the point where people say, oh no, Kate hasn't said that. No, she doesn't think that. No. So I'll show the video. Here we go.
I have zero intention or interest in changing the law that allows for other people to have an abortion.
You might say, okay, well, that's Kate Forbes. There was Lisa Cameron, wasn't it? She was pro-life. She was in the SNP. What happened to her? Well, she was basically hounded out of the SNP. They might say, oh, John Mason. John Mason, I mean, he is genuinely pro-life. He actually says things that are pro-life in the Parliament. How's he doing in the SNP? Well, he's not in the SNP. He's suspended at the moment. So John Mason isn't an SNP MSP at the moment. He is an independent MSP. So how's the pro-life cause going in the SNP? Well, I think the answer is it's not. It's not. Now, just before we finish, I'll show you what these people had to say about our demonstration outside the convention. This is quite interesting. I think there's about 15 of us there. We had placards, the messages like unborn lives matter. One of the placards had a picture of an unborn baby's face. It says underneath, we care. And we did use a couple of placards with abortion images, and shocking abortion images. They were pixelated in the video I showed at the beginning. Now, as the family party, we don't use those images indiscriminately. We only use them to show to people who are making decisions about abortion. So people going into that SNP conference, they need to know what they're supporting if they decide to vote for this motion. So let's see how the speakers in the conference responded to it.
So let me say loudly to the tiny number gathered outside our hall today, not your body, not your choice, we are not going back.
I deplore some of the tactics that have been used by some of those outside.
But running the gauntlet coming into conference this morning, and as you may expect, I had a few words to say to them. Very choice ones.
Running the gauntlet, I mean, how hysterical, what ridiculous language to use. Walking past a line of people with placards, running the gauntlet. I really don't think. But the man who seems to have pro-life views, well, who does have pro-life views, he was appalled, very embarrassed that pro-life people act like that. I say to him, what's your plan? How's it going in the SNP? What are you doing to put forward the pro-life point of view? Where's your motion at the conference? What difference are you making? And I suspect the answer is, frankly, zero. And I think that's always the challenge. After people say, I'd probably have a nicer way of doing it than you would. Normally they're the people who actually are not doing anything. People are objecting to the fact that we use the images. Well, why do we use them? Because we want to bring home the reality of abortion. Talking about it as an abstract concept, that's all one thing. They want to exist in this like welter of cliches and euphemisms, but we want to bring some reality to the site instead. Part of the reason we were there as well, did we change anyone's mind? Possibly. Maybe some people who were in the middle hadn't quite decided on the issue, might have been provoked to think about it. Maybe that will be ongoing. But another reason for being there is now they can't say they didn't know what they were doing. The people in that SNP conference hall, they walk past these images, they walk past these messages, picture of unborn children, they walked past those and then they went in and voted as they did. On their heads be it. Now, I'm not normally the sort of person who likes to say, I told you so, apart from the times when I told you so. So I'll just read this from our policy document that was published last year. If Scotland were to attain independence in the near future, we fear that its new written constitution would set in stone many values and principles with which we disagree. For example, abortion rights would most likely be written into the constitution. Once something is embedded in the constitution, it becomes much more difficult to change. It's no longer a regular political issue decided by a majority vote in the Parliament, but can only be overturned by what is usually a far more demanding process to change the constitution. So Scottish independence would, to some degree, make the values of this current political establishment the foundation of Scotland for decades to come. For this reason, many Scottish nationalists do not wish to see independence until our national values are founded in integrity, decency and truth. Well, our prediction was right, and that is certainly a message I would say to anyone supporting Scottish independence. If Scottish independence were to be achieved in the sort of foreseeable future, in the near future, it would set in stone the values of the current Scottish political establishment. And if you don't want that, I'd suggest you postpone your ambitions for Scottish independence until Scotland can be set on a firmer foundation if it were to become an independent state. So thanks for watching. Hope that was interesting. A couple of events to mention coming up. Friday next week, Friday the 13th of September, I'm taking part in a question time event about social political issues. That's in St Kentigern's Church in Kilmarnock at 7 p.m. That's a Friday, 13th of September. Do come along to that if you can. Be good to see you. And our annual conference is on Saturday afternoon, the 9th of November. It's always a really good event. We've got some very good speakers. We've got our own speakers. We've got some other speakers coming in as well. So don't miss that. We would love to see you there. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, now is the time. Okay, thanks for watching.